It is the political correctness of anxiety. See, what people do is the silent majority are the silent majority because they don't believe in politics. The people that do believe in politics, right, they are channeling anxiety. And because courage acknowledges anxiety, and courage knows that anxiety does not listen, as per the experience with our own minds, the world is replicating this to where the 99%, which is consciousness, is being controlled by the 1%, which is anxiety. And it just is an observation that the geopolitical situation in the world is an exact copy of the relationship to the human mind being controlled by its anxieties. And there's a more critical thing where this event of birth happened before language was developed. So we have a language that is one of the layers, one of the anti-tampering mechanisms. The language supports the politic of anxiety, not consciousness. And see, this is what goes on. And how do they get our attention? They replicate anxiety because courage acknowledges anxiety. And so you've got this unending series of events where they've replicated the function of anxiety to maintain their political position. There you go.
So basically, they're making fear and anxiety, and then feeding off of it and making money out of it.
Yeah, because they are the serious salesmen of it. They know that we don't like anxiety. They know that we love courage. That's why we love education, and the love of education is actually why we create wealth, why we have an economy, why it feels good to work, you know. Go out, work, get on the team, you know. So they know we do all this. We love this, and they take advantage of that. So what started out? See, another thing people don't realise, and because while everyone believes anxiety is wisdom, nobody's objective. Okay, so the world has changed, and actually the culture of the world has changed because the economic situation has changed. The economic situation has changed because the relationship with the silent majority has changed, because the silent majority has changed. You know, we're a victim of our own success because we've made so much cool stuff and have so many systems, networks, business. We've got masses of productivity we have embraced, and basically the silent majority, the 99%, aren't buying a lot of stuff. Okay, the purchasing of goods has slowed right down because we have everything we want. Okay, and that's one of your leading dynamices of the financialists' problem. Okay, they want to maintain their political position while it's more and more obvious they are not fit for purpose to be in governance. And it's not the governments that are the governance, it is the economic system that is the governance, because governments can only do what they can with the money they've got and the political environment they've got, okay? And so they're very quickly running out of credibility. And this is your thing. And so they invite all the immigrants in there to the UK and Europe and that. They did it on purpose because they need a way to reboot their equation. And because the thing is, the 99% are content with being middle class. And that's why, the silent majority aren't, the silent majority's wealth has outstripped rationale the elites use to govern us, and so they're trying to create more. They're trying to change the situation so they seem more relevant, and so at the top end, at the macro end, that's kind of what it appears to me is going on. If I may add.
And how did you?
Yeah. Yes.
How did you get to this? How did you get to this point then? How did you realise all this yourself?
Well, because I've just I've observed it. I've observed the situation. One thing that struck me is very strange, right, in New Zealand, right. Firstly, at the media, right, they don't show any media from outside the Western world. And even when I was like 10 years old, I noticed this, right. There's nothing. There's no movies. There's no music. There's no anything. There's no classical music. There's only the specific genres that they like. And so then you can form an opinion that they have a specific politic to actually think that is good. And then there was a long period of the media really punishing the psyche of the country with all these problems, right? And the Labour government back in the 90s, they came up with these absolutely ridiculous things. And it was really attacking the psyche of the country. And so then there was a long period of that. Feminism was taking over, political correctness really took over. And there was this thing that myself and a female friend, we used to discuss the gender war in New Zealand that men had lost. And for me, a point about that, it's gender thing, that there is this competition between genders, that is a massive red flag that something is wrong. And also that is an insight into what is wrong. When you dig, I knew there was some problem in there. And so, but more currently, it came to me that the media kept going on and on and on about the problems, right? And all these problems they talk about have their genesis in an anxiety. So then going on and on and on about it as problems, that is a kind of that's promoting anxiety as wisdom. And that makes it a pattern of circular logic, okay? So this pattern of circular logic, I knew that this was well beyond the human being to conceive this means of control, this matrix, whatever it is, this culture that is controlling the world. It's beyond the actual human being's intellect to actually do that. And it had to have been something that we're all in on. Okay, and that's when it struck me that the singular thing that every single problem and every single political sphere and the silent majority, that there's one single thing that has one commonality through all of that, and all down through history, the singular thing has been the singular commonality between all things, and that is language. And so it came to me that that was the case, and then I started looking at language, and so it comes to it that I discovered that it's the relationship to anxiety that governs the language.
But they want us just, well, in every way we seem to go, they don't seem to want us in any harmony with each other. It's quite a dog-eat-dog world.
Well, that's replicating anxiety, you see. So this is, I've got to say, this is where it gets super duper science fiction. Okay, super duper sci-fi, because this is actually about the character of consciousness. It is the character of consciousness that wants it like this. Because while consciousness believes that anxiety is wisdom, all of the cognitive power of consciousness is directed at the aspirations of anxiety. And so, yes, you're right. You see, this, we know that, I know that, anxiety lives in language because we think thought is language. And so, anxiety lives in language. And so, because it's the first two laws, right? You want to conceal your anxieties. You must allow other people to conceal their anxieties. Okay, that's a political agreement because it governs language. And so that as a matter of course means that anxiety is a political entity. And so it's living within those two laws which causes this has been the governance of the development of language from way back whenever it started. This has actually governed the development and conceptualization of words, phrases, all sorts of stuff. The political has completely dominated the development of language because, we are inspired to write new words, and this is the language we've used, right? And so, see, the problem is reflective of the dynamics of consciousness, not anxiety, because anxiety has hijacked consciousness. And so the problems have the complexity according to the dynamics of consciousness, while we perceive them with the one-dimensional language of anxiety. And so that's a major problem of the human civilization. And so I thought it was a good idea to actually identify anxiety and remove that, so we could actually use consciousness to answer the actual problem. Because,
this all goes back to this whole thing about sort of with this whole flat earth thing and spirituality, where this consciousness, they just don't want us to be anywhere near this consciousness together.
This is true. That's right. There's this, because it's a language thing and it's a political thing. Anxiety, all those things they say about God is actually they're talking about anxiety, because it's anxiety that is incredibly jealous, and anxiety is really protectionist. Okay, and so because it's a political thing, anxiety has political correctness. Okay, anxiety is a very politically correct thing. That's why people, they sit there and they imagine the worst case scenario. Okay, now I've done that. I do that. You have this fleeting vision of the worst case scenario of something because you're having anxieties, and that's because anxiety is extremely politically correct. And it is you automatically gravitate to the optimum outcome. Okay. Now this is about the character of consciousness, because that's what consciousness does. It can really quickly envision the optimum outcome when you're planning a job, right? When you're thinking how you want to change something to be better, you can very easily imagine the optimum outcome of that. And so you see, it's really, the nature of anxiety is really about the character of consciousness. And that's something really interesting, I think. But because, the political correctness of anxiety thing, I mean, as I've just explained it, as far as I'm concerned, that's mathematically sound, the analysis. And this is why the whole world functions as it does, because people that believe in courage know that anxiety is politically correct. And that's how the whole elite system works, the whole bureaucracy. All the elites are doing what they're doing, and all the bureaucracy underneath it they've created, they instinctively intuit the political correctness. Just like consciousness will immediately come up with a great answer, people instinctively intuit what the optimum outcome according to the political correctness of anxiety is, and everyone pushes that way. And so also, again, with that observation, the discovery fits exactly that facet of the human experience.